Being 7 o'clock,
And then
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Lynn, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Grover?
Here.
Mrs. Sullivan?
Here.
Mr. Halchansky?
Here.
Mrs. Vanderwater?
Here.
Ms. Lesniak? Here. Mr. Tupper?
Here.
Mr. Zachariah?
Here. All right, I'd like to approve the minutes of our meeting from July 5th. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain.
And any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Citizens' comments. Anyone wishing to address the board? Seeing no one, we'll move on to our first item of the day, which is our vouchers. We're going to be approving vouchers in a total of $67,515.53. Voucher numbers 230858 through 230864. Also vouchers 230866 through 230920. And vouchers 230935 to 230936. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2, our assessor's report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This will cover the springtime events in the assessor's office. We mailed out 301 change of assessment notices April 17th, April 17th. Informal meetings with the assessor were scheduled the 24th, April 24th and May 1st. A grand total of 6 informal appointments were scheduled. Grievance day was held by appointment on Tuesday, May 23rd. 5 appointments were scheduled and 12 were paperwork only, which the board looked at without seeing the property owners. The town of Van Buren currently has no small claim filings for 2023, with the deadline to file being August 1st, which is a little over a week away. The town of Van Buren has received no new Supreme Court filings for 2023. Our current court cases include the Village Green Apartments filed each year from 2018 to 2023, and the Comfort Inn filed each year 2020 to 2023. Our equalization rate has been finalized for 2023, and that is at 95%, not the 100 that we're used to. Just for informational purposes, Onondaga County equalization rates for 2023 range from 1.55% to 100%. 3 towns are at 100%, which would be DeWitt, Manlius, and Tully. And the county average for level of assessment or equalization rates is currently 72%. So that's how we compare to other municipalities in the county. The assessor's annual report has been completed and filed with the county and the state as required by real property tax law. Copy of page 1 is attached, and it indicates a net change in the total assessed value from 2022 to 2023 of $8,547,409. Okay, you have that attachment to the report. Also, quite a few legislative changes. You have some attachments. I'm just going to hit the high points. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me. Call me at my office, send me an email or whatever, and I will be happy to explain any of this information. Legislative changes for 2023 currently included in the state budget. The state solar and wind appraisal model was readapted for use in 2023. To give you a little history, a temporary restraining order had been in place due to a 2022 court case, and that, please note, this change occurred after the tentative assessment roll was completed and no assessment challenges were made on grievance day. We currently have 2 active, fully assessed solar farms in Van Buren, and neither of them came in on grievance day after this model was reinstated, so I'm believing they're okay with the assessment, but I'll keep you posted. For this year, there really isn't anything we can do about that. Changes to the senior citizen and limited income disability exemption redefines what is considered income and clarifies which income tax year applies. And this has been kind of a gray area about, what's included in the income and what year should we use. And so they tried to clarify that. In some cases, they made it more complicated, and other cases that, made it a little bit less gray. And they also removed gender-specific language and was replaced, and the form was updated. There really isn't anything the town has to do. There are some local option things about medical expenses. What is one of the big ones, not counting Social Security in the total income and that kind of thing. But right now, to give you an idea, the town of Van Buren counts the total amount of Social Security for the senior citizen income, but we do not deduct medical expenses, but we do subtract the IRA. So those are the current options that we have, and I think you're looking at the higher income limit. My advice, if you're going to go with the higher income limit, would be not to change any of those other options at the same time until we find out exactly what the impact is going to be with that higher income limit. Onondaga County changed their July 5th resolution number 100, the volunteer firefighter and ambulance worker exemption. They changed that at the county to require 2 years of service instead of 5 years of service. Currently, the town of Van Buren has the standard 5 years, so that's an option if you want to consider it. The town of Lysander, right out of the gate, changed it to 2. After the public hearing, a lot of the fire departments came in and said, we really don't want to wait for 5 years. Can you do 2? So after that public hearing, they changed. Lysander actually adopted it right out of the gate with that 2 years. So that's something that if you have any questions about, let me know. And you have all of that information attached to your report.
Ms. Golden,
Yes.
this evening they're actually introducing a local law to revise
Yeah.
from 5, well, no, the income, but also for the 5 years to the 2 years. There's 2.
Oh, I must have missed that.
Yep,
Sorry.
so, no, that's okay. So your points are on point.
Yes. I must have either missed it or forgotten. Any questions about either report?
I have one comment and one question. First, the comment is thank you very much for increasing the font so that I can see it. Appreciate that. The second, do we know the equalization rates for Clay and Lysander by any chance?
Clay is in the ballpark of 3%, okay, the town Clay. Lysander is currently at 90.
90.
90.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Spot on as usual, Terry.
Thank you.
So no problem.
Thank you,
And I
Teresa.
think we have one other item.
Yes. Training.
Yes. At long last.
Would you like me to speak to it?
Go
or-
right, yes, please
Okay.
do.
This is, for those new board members, I am required by law to attend an average of 12 hours of what we call continuing education training every year. Over the years of the pandemic, I did get my first warning from the state because I hadn't been to training. And last year, I went for a total of 24 hours. I went both to Cornell and Ithaca for 4 days and to the fall conference. And to get those 24 credits to get myself off the naughty list, so to speak. So this conference will give me my another year's worth of credits that's required, 12. It's held, they rotate across the state this year. It's in Saratoga Springs, and you have all of the information attached. And as usual, because it's continuing education, it's required. The state does reimburse for training. Anything that's not reimbursed by the state of New York would be covered under a roughly 60-40 split as a shared expense with the town of Lysander, because you share my services. Questions?
How was everyone across the state compliant during COVID with the continuing education?
A lot of warnings. I don't know, because I don't get to look at other people's.
No, but I'm just thinking, you know, when you're not offering the conferences and, you know, it's.
A lot of people do them online, but they're very limited. And they did suspend that 12 credit year, you know, per year requirement. But it only applied to 2020. So, but the pandemic kind of, you know, creeped along beyond 2020. And they are now doing our conferences, like at the Cornell conference in Ithaca, which is actually this week, and the fall conference are both hybrids. So they have a smaller group of people going in person, and people that really don't want to be in person can have, you know, a limited hybrid option. So that's how they're currently planning everything, is a hybrid model. Okay. But where we have, let's see, there's 3, 6, like 9 choices of classes in person, there's only like 3. So each time slot only has 1 hybrid, you know, virtual component. If you look at the schedule, where in the morning we would have 3 options, and in the afternoon we would have 3 options in person. There's only 1 option for that hybrid typically. So, and they charge, my biggest beef with that is they charge the same amount, whether you go in person or virtually, for that tuition, that other than meals in the hotel, which obviously is more. But for the conference itself, they charge the same amount whether you go in person and you have like 9 choices of classes, or you go virtually and you only have 3. So that was one of my biggest things. I didn't think it was quite appropriate to charge the same amount for both.
I agree.
Any other questions for Terry? The attendance training in Saratoga Springs, we're going to need a motion for that at a cost of $1,196 plus mileage.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you, Terry.
October in Saratoga Springs is beautiful.
Well, actually, our conference this year, usually it goes from September, from Sunday to Wednesday. Because it's in Saratoga Springs, they bumped us. So now it's a Tuesday to a Friday, because they want to kick us out before the weekend.
Right.
They have their horse racing there that weekend. All right, we'll move on to item number 4, approved trash hauler license for waste management.
I make a motion to approve that. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion,
Do you need to accept the assessor's report?
I don't know, do I need to accept the assessor's report? That was a good question.
I didn't have a check mark.
I
Should do that,
accept.
Jess. All right, move on to item number 5, approve Ross Anderson as a park attendant at the rate of $17 per hour. I'm sorry, there's a typo on the agenda. It is 17, not 16.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Move on to number 6. We're going to declare a 2011 Canon desktop copier ID number 551 located in the Justice Court as surplus and authorize its disposal. I'll need a motion.
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Next, we're going to schedule a public hearing, as we were just talking about, which will be to adopt a local law establishing the annual income ranges for persons 65 years of age or over, as listed in section 180-5 of the Town of Van Buren Code, and establishing annual income ranges for disabled persons as listed in section 180-8. This will be a public hearing set for August 2nd. Do I have a motion?
Moved. Second.
Any discussion? The motion carries. Oh, right. All those in favor, I did that part, yeah. All those in favor, please.
Aye.
And any opposed? Now the motion carries. Pretty sure that's how that works. All right, number 8, which is call for a schedule a public hearing for local law E 2023 to establish a minimum years of service for volunteer firemen and first responders, ambulance workers. Minimum year of service moving from 5 years to 2 years.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries, and that will also be in August 2nd. All right, we have a penciled in number 9, which is the park office has recently lost our HVAC. We did get 3 bids. The best of which was from Marabito, where we have 2 units, one in the park office and one in the buildings and grounds office across the parking lot. Both are, I think the polite term is antiquated, both using a fuel and kerosene mixture. We're going to replace both. The one in the park office for $11,267, I'm sorry, for $14,725, and the one in the buildings and grounds for $7,255. Anyone like any discussion on this?
I'd just like to point out that the quote from Marabito was, what, $10,000 less than
Substantially
the
lower.
other 2.
Yeah.
And I think also it's the right time to replace both of them, not just one.
I agree.
I guess the only other thing I would question would be the propane tank itself, whether or not it's, something that we rent, that we buy, whether or not we have to stick with Marabito for.
My understanding from Doug is that they should provide those at no cost to the town.
So, but will we be able to use other suppliers if we wanted to?
That becomes the question. We'll find that question out before we
Okay.
proceed. And then we'll probably be bringing another motion for disposal of the current fuel tank, for both disposal of the fuel and for disposal of the tank. All right, any other questions? Did we get a motion in a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Got distracted. I have an eye.
All right, Counselor committee reports and comments. Howard?
I have nothing on this at this time.
This time. Jenny?
I attended the planning board meeting last week. Their agenda was pretty full. Nothing was on it about Creeko Farms, but it was very informative. And also, during the summer, I just want to encourage everybody to go to, if they have the opportunity, to go visit our Van Buren Park and our Erie Canal and enjoy the amenities. That's it.
Thanks. Mike?
Follow up to the Van Buren Park. I was just there, I took a little tour today of Van Buren Park and the Harbor Heights Park. Van Buren Park looked very, very, very nice. I actually called Chris Ornway and congratulated him on how nice it looked. And everything was in place, right down to the garbage cans weren't overflowing. There were people using the pool, there were people playing frisbee golf, there were people playing basketball. The park was being used. And it looked very, very nice. And he's doing a great job. I mean, the whole crew is doing a great job maintaining it. In regards to the Harbor Heights Park, for people who are not aware, there were 2 issues, one of which was there's a gate that it blocks off access to the river. It looks, according to Chris, it looks like somebody either drove a car into it or backed a car into it in an attempt to break open the fence so they could get access to the river. One of the residents of Harbor Heights posted on Facebook and said, who could we contact? And I don't know if they ended up calling you, Bob, directly, or you just saw it on the Facebook page also?
Yeah, I saw it on there and got a hold of Heidi and Chris.
Yeah, so we got a hold of Heidi and Chris, and it was fixed like the next day. So they did a great job replacing that. I believe one of the vouchers you approved was $65 or something like that. But because Chris was able to do that sort of thing, he got it fixed very, very quickly. Second issue at the Harbor Heights Park specifically was there's a piece of playground equipment that had a broken part on it. Again, the neighbors at Harbor Heights reported that. We immediately reported it to Parks. And I found out that Chris had actually seen that this particular part was cracked probably 3 months ago, and he ordered the part 3 months ago. That part just came in, so he said he's going to get to it this week to replace that one particular part. But what I wanted to stress was Chris found this out 3 months ago, saw that it was cracked, didn't wait for it to get broken all the way and to create a safety hazard. Instead, he took action to order the part, knowing that it would probably be on back order. So again, I want to congratulate Chris and his crew, Heidi and everybody involved in the park. It looks very, very nice.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike.
I can't top that.
Oh, I'm sorry, the pavilion. The new pavilion looks beautiful. They've done great work on that too. It's not up and going yet, but they've got everything in. They have the ceiling in, they have the rooms partitioned off. Great job there too. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I don't have anything tonight.
Wendy?
I had a comprehensive land use plan meeting subcommittee solar farms tonight. We wrapped up. I emailed Nadine earlier today to see. Really? I will. It's just maybe a little. I'll send it to you, and if you want to sit down to go over it, I'm happy to do that. Maybe after you're here doing a pre-planning board meeting or something, I'll send it over to you. So I'm really happy that that work is done, so we didn't have to extend the moratorium any further. I think the work we did was very good, very thorough as well. So now we're going to kind of take a little break on the comprehensive land use plan. Darcy's going to do some behind the scenes work on strategy as far as reaching out to the county officials to help us with the next steps of the plan. I know our supervisor's going to send out some letters to engage more members in the community. So I'm excited about that starting, but again, we're going to take a pause on that for right now until we get our ducks in a row. Additionally, I have a Canton Woods board meeting early August, so I will report back to this board after that meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. Huh?
I have nothing tonight.
Great. I have nothing to add. Doug?
Yeah, I just like to quick read a letter that I received from a resident that I said I would pass along to the board, to the town supervisor. It's addressed to whom it may concern. I'm writing this letter on behalf of the residents of Connors Road, Baldwinsville, that live between East Sorrel Hill Road and Canton Street in Baldwinsville in the town of Van Buren. We are petitioning for a speed limit of 35 miles per hour on this portion of Connors Road. The speed limit is currently unmarked, so in New York State, the state speed limit of 55 miles per hour is a legal limit if there's no posted speed limit. It is very dangerous pulling out of our driveways as vehicles come over a blind hill at a fast speed into our neighborhood and often hard brake at the stop sign on Canton Street. There's also a very sharp corner with no guardrails and deep ditches prior to a stretch of houses. See attached pictures, which she does have 4 pictures, so I'll include to you. On the other side of Canton Street and Connors Road, the speed limit is 35 miles per hour. We'd like the same consideration for a portion of Connors Road. They'd like advice on how to proceed with the speed limit request and gave their email and and phone number, as well as 5 other residents of that particular stretch that have signed this letter. So I'll pass that along to you.
Thank you.
It's my recollection that we had in the past, I'm not sure of how long ago it was, but we had put in a speed limit request for this stretch of road many years back. I believe it was for 45. And I know myself, I know Jason and the board at that time thought it was a decent measure because there is a blind hill that approaches these 5, as you're approaching Canton Street, that approaches these 5 houses on the right-hand side. It did not go through, the state did not approve it at that point. So I can't speak to whether or not they would or will not for this one. I still think it's valid as far as that portion of it is still a concern. As far as the guide rail corner is concerned, the highway department removed that many years ago and got permission from, as well as, I believe, the town engineer did the paperwork with Scholten Farms, who owns their property, for us to take a little bit of that property to put in a lot of fill and make it a New York State DOT unrecoverable slope. But it's a much safer curve with the slope than it is with a guide rail that will, a car will hit it, cause lots of damage and potentially put the car back into the road in the oncoming traffic or whatever the heck case may be. So, but that picture is shown here very clearly. You can see the slope on it that's less than some yards are. So that's all I have for it. I'll pass it along to you.
Thank you, please do, and I'll reach out to them tomorrow and we'll take our next steps.
Okay.
Jason?
I have no comments this evening.
Okay. Nadine?
Thank you. I have one thing for the board to consider this evening. The code enforcement officer had reached out with concerns regarding property located at 1672 Old Route 31. And the property on, the structure rather, on that property, he's been working with the property owner. Property owner fully acknowledges the problems. In fact, there is correspondence that he submitted. The gentleman's name is Michael Stone. He had submitted a letter to our code officer acknowledging the need to demolish the structure and indicating that he did not have the capability to demolish the dwelling, so there was no other option than to have the town perform that. The town engineer did go out and do an analysis of the residential structure. There's a report dated May 5th of 2023, and in the town engineer's report, he acknowledged the following structural deficiencies. The roof has collapsed, the rear wall has collapsed, the eastern wall is significantly out of plumb, and the foundation block wall on the east and south sides is structurally compromised. It was his opinion that the building is structurally not sound and should not be entered or inhabited. So based upon his own inspections and observations, as well as consulting with the town engineer, it is the opinion of the code enforcement officer that the structure needs to be demolished. And he issued a letter dated May 10th making that recommendation rendering that order. No work has been completed. So because of that, I've been in communications with the town's code officer, and Chapter 96 of your town code addresses unsafe structures in the town, what actions can be taken, and what the town can do. So pursuant to Chapter 96, after your code officer gives a report, such as the materials that he has provided, once that report is provided to the town board is in a position to say, we think there's enough here that the structure is unsafe, but give the opportunity to the property owner to have a public hearing. This requires the preparation of a notice of unsafe building. I have prepared that. I've circulated that to the town board, and what this does, this notice is drafted very specifically to be consistent and compliant with Chapter 96. And what it does is if you take a look at it, it's a 3-page document, but it describes the premises, which is essentially, an old structure, an old style single family home at 1672 Old State Route 31. It talks about the particulars in which the building's unsafe, and that references the town engineer's investigations, as well as the notice to demolish that the code officer has issued. And it references the New York State Property Maintenance Code sections that the property is in violation of. It then orders that the property owner either secure or, in the alternative, remove the structures within 30 days. But it sets a hearing. And the hearing, as proposed, is for August 2nd, 2023 at 7 p.m. If the town is agreeable to the issuance of this notice, that would schedule the public hearing. This will also, we are in our office has already reached out to a title company for a last owner search so that all parties with an interest in the property can be contacted, which is required by your code. Once that property owner or that last owner search is returned, we can send the notice to each of those individuals or parties as well. But it gets filed with the county clerk's office so that it puts anyone on notice, because there have been circumstances in the past where this notice is published and somebody sells the property. At least it puts everyone on notice who may have an interest in the property until such time that the structure is demolished, that it needs to be demolished under the terms of this proposal, or consistent rather with Chapter 96. Any costs that the town incurs to the extent that the property owner does not demolish the building is charged back to the property, and then the town's made whole at the end of the year, or which time by the county. So what I would ask this evening is that there just be a resolution acknowledging the recommendation by Code Enforcement Officer Purdue that the structure is unsafe, scheduling a public hearing for August 2nd of 2023, and authorizing the issuance of this notice of unsafe structure so that this procedure can continue.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? I know I just threw a lot.
Does anyone live there, do we know?
He lives in Florida, I believe.
So it's vacant? Okay.
That may be part of the reason why he does not have the ability to. Yeah.
Okay.
Did someone complain about this, or
Yes.
neighbor?
Across the street, yes.
Do we know if there's any concerns with any materials, asbestos, anything like that that we might encounter there?
I don't know. I am going to guess that they will treat it as hot because it's a structure built prior to 1976 or whatever. So there's that assumption typically, unless you have the asbestos testing and everything else. And I'm not sure with the size of the structure whether that's worth completing, but typically all the material is then taken to Seneca Meadows, thank you. Yes, that's one of the few places that, if not the only place, that takes hot material. So I think we have a motion and a second. Did you guys vote on it?
Did not.
Okay. I think I interrupted that with
That's all right. All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Motion passes. The public hearing will be August 2nd.
Just making sure. Thank you. I have nothing else. That was it.
Thank you. Lynn, do you have anything today? Now I'd like a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. We stand adjourned until August 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you.